It's been close to a year now since I released a video talking about music in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, but I'm finally back at it. Check out the playlist on my channel for those other videos if you're interested. So far, I've talked about how the battle music in Breath of the Wild is used in Age of Calamity, and how Mipha and Sidon's themes are used. It's time to move on to our favorite rock-eating volcano-dwelling friends, the Gorons. I'm going to be honest, out of the 4 or 5 if you count Hylian's major races in Breath of the Wild, the Gorons are probably my least favorite, but they do have some great music. And their champion Daruk gives off that weird uncle energy to me, which I mean in a good way. We'll focus on Daruk's theme specifically in this video, although I did find some interesting connections with some of the other Goron music. The script got really long again, so be on the lookout for another video about the Goron music in Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity sometime down the road. So without further ado, let's dive into the theme for the man of the hour, Daruk. Like most of the character themes in Breath of the Wild, Daruk's has several different parts to it. However, unlike Mipha's introductory cutscene, we don't get Daruk's full theme in his introductory cutscene, at least the full theme as it appears on the soundtrack. As we'll see, there are connections between the different parts of Daruk's theme, as they are used across cutscenes in Breath of the Wild. I'll go ahead and discuss how each theme appears in each cutscene. Like many of the themes we've seen so far in this series, Daruk's begins with an introduction that sets the mood. The introduction is loud and strong, with brass and percussion as the main timbres. There's a strong emphasis on beat 1, which is the strongest beat in the measure. Although the tempo is a little slower than a standard march tempo, all of these factors together still give it a militaristic kind of sound and feel. Many of these features are also stereotypically heroic tropes. For more on tropes and topic theory, you can see my video about the music in Echoes of Wisdom. The whole theme is in C minor, although the boldness of the intro does not lend to normal minor key associations. At least it doesn't sound that way to my ear. In Breath of the Wild, the first time we hear this music is the first time we see the champion Daruk. And since this theme is not used in any of the memory cutscenes, this will be the first time you hear it. Here is this big-bearded Goron oozing confidence and swagger, accompanied by proud rhythmic chords in the brass, bringing out his heroic qualities. Certainly, this is a man you can trust to get the job done.
Hell you would. Sure is a blast fighting the Gorons. Let those other champions eat their keep up with you.
After this intro, however, the music shifts pretty dramatically. Instead of the steady marcato accompaniment, there is a legato string accompaniment, while the piano becomes the main melodic voice. Not all of the heroic tropes have fled, however, as we have a perfect fifth upwards motion, the perfect fifth often being associated with heroic themes. Think of the main theme of Star Wars, for instance. And even though the brass instruments are gone, the rhythmic pattern of this upwards fifth makes it sound like some sort of signaling call, either for the military or perhaps a hunt, which gives us even more heroic associations. At the same time, the minor key does feel more apparent in this part of the cue and adds a serious note to the section, which makes sense in the context of the cutscene, as Daruk starts talking about protecting everyone. Sure, he's strong, but there's certainly a weight to that statement, and the more legato accompaniment, key, and orchestrational choices help to bring that out.
Just look at all those collective rocks sprinkled on those mountains. Mighty tasty. May not know a whole lot about this planet. Get it then. I'll protect this land of ours to the death. Right? Hey.
And this is the only part of Daruk's theme we actually get until defeating Fireblight Ganon. Once you defeat Fireblight, as Daruk congratulates you, the brassy heroic introduction of his theme plays, proceeding into that A section we just listened to.
Great work, little guy! I owe you big for this. Because of you, my spirit is finally free. Can't thank you enough. I feel like I should apologize. I was doing all I could to protect Hyrule when that thing got the best of me. Sorry that me resting with the rubble caused...
Now we finally get the next section of the theme. We'll call it the B section. It has the same upwards perfect fifth action as the A section, except it's slowed down a little. Instead of a 16th to another 16th, we have an 8th to a quarter note. Both parts have this motive landing on a downbeat going to an offbeat, except now we're actually getting the upbeat of the 8th note instead of the shorter 16th offbeat. And this motive is now starting on beat 3 instead of beat 1, which is a weaker beat in the measure. Also in this section, the piano takes on an even more prominent role as the only acoustic voice. There's some electronic sound design stuff happening in the background, but other than that, just piano, until a trumpet line rises out of this texture. Also significant to this part of the theme is the chord progression. We have a minor 1, that C minor chord, going to major 7, or a B flat major chord, and then major 6, or an A flat major chord, which is not a normal progression, but I really like how it sounds here. In fact, the theme stays in C natural minor almost entirely, and it avoids the B natural leading tone completely. In this way, the music is avoiding the necessary pullback to the tonic C, which feels more calm to me in a way. It's almost as if Daruk is breathing a sigh of relief at finally being freed by Link. In this way, I think it makes a lot of sense why we don't hear this portion of the theme until this moment.
I'm gonna take this down the mountain. I'll have a better shot at getting it there. And then, once you've made your way into Hyrule Castle, we're gonna light that thing up. I want to give you something. It's a special power of mine called Daruk's Protection. It's no good to me now that I'm a spirit, but it might be useful for you.
This sense of relief is even more apparent in the final section of this music that happens after Link receives Daruk's protection. The same rhythmic motive that was in part A and B is still here, but instead of a perfect fifth, we get a major second. It's an interesting choice here, as Daruk tells Link his power now lives inside of him. Perhaps it's Daruk himself saying farewell to his heroic strength that he was known for.
From this moment forth, the power of protection from the depths of my soul now lives inside you.
As soon as he finishes saying this, and we see Link again, the perfect fifth returns. Link, of course, representing courage and being the hero of this game. This makes a lot of sense here. The time for the hero Daruk may be over, but he is happy to play that supporting role as Link carries on his protection.
Now lives inside you. Good luck, little guy. And give my regards to the princess.
The only other cutscene that utilizes Daruk's theme in Breath of the Wild is the one where he sets up the Divine Beast to shoot at the castle. The music as he marches into position is the same for each Divine Beast. Then we get a transposition of the main motive of his theme, that upwards fifth motion, much like we saw in Mipha's theme in her setting up the Divine Beast instance. See this video. Instead of the C up to G perfect fifth we've had up to this point, it is now a G up to D. As the scene continues, we eventually get the theme from the third melodic section, that major second motive, and eventually it does morph into the C to G perfect fifth when Daruk notices Yunobo.
Well, that ought to do it. We're set here. Now we just gotta wait for the perfect shot. Once Link is in the castle, Utania will unleash an epic blast. I wonder how the Gorons fared after the Great Calamity. I sure hope everyone down there is still going strong after every... Huh? Hey, look at that! Still going strong indeed! Ha!
As far as gameplay instances, like with Mipha's theme, there aren't really any. There are some other interesting connections between other portions of the Goron music that I'll talk about in the next video and how those appear in Age of Calamity. I appreciate the depth the music adds to Daruk's character. He is a big guy, certainly strong, and an adept fighter. He's also a pretty positive character throughout the cutscenes, so I find this really interesting that his theme is in a minor key. And other than the opening fanfare, his strength is not portrayed in the music, at least not in a stereotypical sense. The orchestration is particularly interesting, especially because brass is such an important timbre in relation to the Gorons in other instances, particularly the Goron city music. The way Daruk's theme is orchestrated brings out a softer side to his seemingly gruff personality, and utilizes the all-important piano timbre that really ties the whole Breath of the Wild soundtrack together. At the same time, using that sort of horn call idea of the upwards fifth shows he is ready to hunt or fight once the need arises. As he says, "I'll protect this land of ours to the death." As to be expected, Daruk's theme features the most prominently in the Daruk the Goron hero level in Age of Calamity. Notably, this cue is also in C minor. There is an opening cutscene to this level that uses Daruk's theme in exactly the same way as his introductory cutscene in Breath of the Wild, using that heroic martial introduction followed by the characteristic perfect fifth melody in piano. This is different from how the introduction to Mipha the Zora Princess level began, where there was an original theme in that opening cutscene. What's great about the use of Daruk's theme here is it puts the theme in your ear before starting gameplay, making it easier to audibly notice connections. I also noticed, when looking up the names of the levels, Daruk's is the only one that calls him hero. For Mipha, it's princess, Rivali is warrior, and Urbosa is chief. Interesting then that Daruk's theme is the one that uses the most stereotypically heroic tropes, when he is the one called hero.
Coincidence? I think not!
Actually, this probably is a coincidence, since I don't think he's really called hero much in Breath of the Wild, but an interesting coincidence nonetheless. But back to the music. After the cutscene, the gameplay music begins with an introduction essentially the same as the one in Daruk's theme, except it's sped up a bit, which makes it closer to a standard march tempo. Both introductions use brass, and both give off the same martial heroic idea. Here's the Breath of the Wild version once more.
Hell you would. Sure is a blast fighting the Gorons. Let those other champions eat their keep up with you.
And the Age of Calamity version. The introduction proceeds into this sort of groove that has this little ostinato in the clarinets, a very interesting use of woodwinds here. It's a nice little middle range figure for the instrument, which, if you're at all familiar with the clarinet, is the worst range to keep in tune, but also one of the easier ones for aggressive tonguing, and the theme is pretty aggressive here. I'm very biased as a clarinet player, but I think the timbre works very well and shows the clarinet can be a martial instrument too when they want to be. It's not just the clarinet though. The other important timbre here with that ostinato is the marimba. Although I ended up not talking about some of the other Goron music in this video, know that mallet percussion is very important in most of the other Goron music cues, which is a nice tie-in, especially since the level takes place in the Death Mountain region of the map. And here's what that groove sounds like. Then we get a melody that combines two portions of Daruk's theme. We have the opening perfect fifth idea, and then that major second motion. Here is Daruk's theme in Breath of the Wild next to this melody in Age of Calamity, so you can see some of the differences. Other than combining parts from the first and third sections, there are some other differences, including in Age of Calamity, that upwards motion is falling on an offbeat instead of a downbeat. The falling on the offbeat sounds a little bit more casual in a sense to me, and it fits very nicely into that underlying groove that continues. This figure repeats 3 times and then extends to create an ending to the melody. Despite all of these changes, there is enough similarity, and I think with the combination of hearing Daruk's Breath of the Wild theme at the introduction to this level, it is very easy to hear that these 2 versions of the theme are related. After a short interlude of just that groove again, now including the ever-important piano, the same variation of Daruk's theme returns, except with more instruments, making it feel fresh, even though it is the same theme. After that, there isn't much more of Daruk's original theme to find. Then we get a sort of breakdown in the woodwinds that is an original contrasting theme. It feels derivative of the groove rather than related to anything in Daruk's theme. At least I stared at it and examined it for hours and didn't find anything. If I'm missing something, please feel free to point it out in the comments. And here's what that sounds like. Then we have yet another melody that seems mostly unrelated, except that it shares some elements from other themes in this cue. Maybe. Eventually, we do get a little chunk of Daruk's theme again, just the very ending of his intro, before the whole cue loops again. I find it interesting that so little of Daruk's theme is used in this Age of Calamity cue, especially compared to how much of Mipha's theme was utilized in her level. The most recognizable parts are there, sure, but a lot more could have been used, and even so, the only verbatim portion is the intro. The upwards intervals are combining 2 different sections of the original theme. The spirit of Daruk's music is here, sure, but it is quite different overall. I do wonder if this might have something to do with how martial his music was before. Maybe in trying to keep the level fresh, the composer Kumi Tanioka decided to write some new themes for him. Whereas with Mipha, because hers was so gentle to begin with, it was easy to just dress it up differently to create something brand new while still utilizing a lot of reused material, as weird as that sounds. The way this cue uses pieces of Daruk's theme and some elements of the other Goron music, particularly that mallet percussion, while using a lot of original material, I think really makes the music in this level shine. And that's where I'll leave our favorite Goron for now anyways. I noticed a lot of similarities in other aspects of the Goron music in Breath of the Wild, and another level in Age of Calamity. There's also the issue of Yunobo, and any connections that might appear in the Worlds Converge level, as hinted at in my Sidon video. But I ended up with a really long script again, so I'll make that a separate video. No idea when, but stay subscribed or get subscribed if you're not already to be notified when that video comes out. I hope this video at least gives you an idea of how Daruk's theme works and how it was changed to fit in Age of Calamity. I found it a really interesting contrast to the way Mipha's theme was used. And I'm curious once I dive into the other 2 champions, what I'll find out about their respective themes and levels. It's a sign of an excellent soundtrack to me when what could be copy-paste isn't, but instead there is care taken into really portraying characterization through the music. So big kudos to Kumi Tanioka for her incredible scoring. As always, please leave a like if you like this video and subscribe for future videos. More of this series to come, as well as some other ideas I have, and I will get back to some new How to Train Your Dragon content as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Hi everyone, thank you all so much for your patience on the long hiatus of this series. All those of you who have stayed subscribed despite me dropping off the face of the planet. I actually started work on this video last September, then I played Echoes of Wisdom and decided to do a video on that music instead. Then I'd promised How to Train Your Dragon content, so I wanted to get that out first. And here we finally are. I think I am back, at least for a while now. I started a full-time job in January, and the end of last year was just hectic in a lot of ways. The job has been a big adjustment. It requires a lot of production work and talking, which is great to be paid to do that, but it does mean, for a while at least, the last thing I wanted to do in my free time was more production work and talking. I'm more settled into a routine there, though, and have been itching to get my channel back up and running. So I will continue creating content. No promises on how often, but it will come as it comes. So thank you all for being here and for being an audience for some of my musical observations.